Christians, John chapter 10 and verse 6. Jesus had been talking in the first 5 verses of John chapter 10, using the illustration of the shepherd, the sheep, thieves and robbers. And in this dialogue, he is speaking to Pharisees who had been engaged with trying to undermine the works of Christ and to challenge his authority as being the divine Son of God. We see this in chapter 9, when Christ had healed the man who had been born blind. And in verse 6 of John chapter 10, it says that Jesus used this illustration. In other words, what we see in verses 1 through 5. And it says that the Pharisees did not understand the things which he spoke to them. Now, this is sad because there are many people today, Christians today. Christians, there are many of you today who don't understand, like the Pharisees, what Jesus is saying here in John chapter 10, verses 1 through 5. And this ought not to be so. Because you see here, we are the sheep here. Christ knows us, he owns us, and he names us by name. He leads us, and we cannot fail. Strangers, Christians will never follow. Jesus laid down his life for his sheep, not goats. You see nothing in these passages that talks about the will of the sheep. The only thing that it tells us about the will of the sheep is that in verse 5 it says, they will by no means follow a stranger, but will flee from him. This is the only reference to the will of the sheep. And yet so many Christians argue about having a free will. Why would you want one? If Christ leads his sheep, leaving their will in suspended animation, as it were, having no actual effect, why would you not want to be led by him? Are you a better leader than he is to your own soul?